Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, distinguished guests, and folks of all stripes, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your Houston sports podcast for diehard Houston sports fans from a diehard Houston sports fan. I'm Paul Salazar Jr., your favorite diehard Houston Astros fan podcaster. I'm a comedy writer, goofball, dog dad, and creative multi-hyphenate. Of course, I'm a Houston native, and I have the receipts to prove it. I once was in the lobby of the JW Marriott in the Houston Galleria area. Yes, not to brag. I spent the last decade or so as a comedy writer in LA, and now I'm podcasting. That's what happens once you hit 10 years out here. You foolishly start thinking hiking is fun, and you're given a podcast. Welcome to said podcast. This is what my brother calls the Paul Broadpod Ball Blog. Hey, brother. Check out spacecadetsports.substack.com for the full blog experience, or the full blog experience, however way you want to look at it. You know, I started Space Cadet Sports as a passion project because most media is infuriating as a die-hard long-term fan of the Houston Astros. Here, we try not to be doom and gloom Astros fans or Houston fans, or worse, the national media haters, or in other cases, the national media, forgetters. They kind of forget that some of our teams are around sometimes. No, we love this team and root for them, but we also want to discuss the ins and outs of the team without too much homerism. Keyword, we try. We try to be reasonable and not too hot-takey or reactionary. And now that football season is here, we are fully steam ahead with our Houston Texans coverage. Today we have a Texans episode. We are recording this transmission here in sunny LA. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host and co-producer, the Roz to my Frasier. Carla, the dog, is here with me. Long-term listeners of the podcast, you know, she may get on mic from time to time. She's got the hot takes on this podcast. Today's episode is a special retrospective back to the Texans game on Sunday. Very happy to be talking some Texans with you folks today. We did try to have the podcast up yesterday on Monday. Unfortunately, we hit too many technical problems. I was recording and releasing my other podcast. That's also happening on Monday. So podcasts and Mondays sometimes are heavy days for me. Unfortunately, with my Texans podcast, I lost the file. I don't know how this happens in this day and age. I don't know what I did, but I figured out a way to to really mess it up. So we are happy to re-record this podcast and release it here on a Tuesday instead of a normal Monday here. We are very happy to be here. Welcome to first-time listeners. If you're just tuning in to the Texans podcast here, you're excited about your Houston Texans and the season they've had. Welcome. If you're a return listener from the baseball season and you've decided to stay for football season, welcome back. Want to give you a huge good day, mate. If you were here from baseball season, definitely let any Australians know that we are out here and we have a Houston sports podcast. I want to go to the top of those Australian sports charts. Let your Australian friends know. Folks, we're happy to recap this Texans game a little bit and talk some Texans. The Texans beat the Patriots, the New England Patriots, 42-21. Their first win in New England in franchise history. That is wild. That is crazy. I know Joe, my stepdad Joe, and my mom, they once went to a game in New England to watch the Houston Texans play, and Joe's a tough guy. Joe's been around football for a while. Joe's seen a lot of football games, and he was just like, that environment was nuts. Those fans are crazy. Foxborough and New England tended to haunt the Houston Texans in their, short history, but it has been 2 decades. It's kind of tough to think about that they have not been that successful in New England for 2 decades. But, when you have Bill Belichick, when you have Tom Brady, Those historic runs are sometimes what you can go on. The Houston Texans were not haunted in this game, in this trip to New England. They started off very strong. They scored on their first two offensive drives. The first half of this game, was looking to be a 14-0 result at the end of halftime. However, the defense gave up some big plays there towards the end of the half. The Patriots were able to come back and score a touchdown right before the end of the half, which obviously made things feel a little tighter going 14-7 into the half. At the time, it's not like I thought the Texans were going to lose or anything. I did say that this had trap game potential. It's just like, oh no, please let this not be a close one that's going to be decided by a field goal or something like that. I believe in this moment, at this part of the game, there already was a missed field goal. Kaimi Fairbairn, is an amazing kicker coming off of Special Teams Player of the Week honors, and he kind of missed an easy one for him. He was able to get right later on in the game. We can kind of let me pull those stats up here. We are looking at special teams. For kicking, he was 2 for 3 with a 46 kick being his longest kick, 5 for 5 on extra points. So he was able to get right. He did miss one there. I believe it was around 40 yards. So not something that you worry too much about. When it comes to athletes, I'm always saying that they are going to miss. They miss sometimes. It's not automatic, even with kicking. And when you have somebody who is as automatic as Fairbairn, they're going to miss a couple here and there. That's just how it goes. You would rather him miss these kicks in a game like this than a kick in a big game where we needed those 3 points. So, yeah, a little tough in the first half, worrying about the Texans making this a close game. But we didn't have to worry about that too much in this performance. As we kind of look at the totals here, the total game stats, the Texans had 368 total yards, 176 passing yards, while they had a great day in the rushing game with 192, which is kind of what we can be really excited about here from this result from the New England Patriots game. Obviously, we're expecting to win. Winning 41-21 is not gonna make a lot of people get super excited, even though we wanted to win this first historic game in New England, even though we wanted to kind of crush them a bit. For 20 points, that's nice. No one's going to be really reaching to pat themselves on the back here, pun intended. But I think with Nico Collins being out, we still were able to have Joe Mixon and Dameon Pierce back into this offense, and they kind of picked the offense up with a more successful running game with those two running backs. 192 rushing yards in total. Mixon had 102. Pierce had 76. He had one huge play for a touchdown. It was good to see Dameon Pierce score a touchdown. That long run was a 54-yard attempt. He scored a touchdown on that. Dameon Pierce ended the day with 8 attempts for 76 yards, a touchdown, and 9.5 yards per average rush there. So it was good to see Pierce kind of bounce back. There's been a really long, winding path for Dameon Pierce as a Houston Texan. He came out the gate just a phenomenal player, looking great. There was a scheme change, coaching change, and since then, Dameon Pierce has really struggled to find his footing with the Houston Texans. I think the zone blocking scheme, we kind of talked about that in the beginning of the season, how that zone blocking scheme kind of changed the way that Dameon Pierce has to look at the rushing attempts, his rushing attempts with the Houston Texans. Joe Mixon is really good at the zone blocking scheme, running philosophy, kind of, reminiscent of Arian Foster back in the day. After that week 1, everyone was, talking about Joe Mixon as if he was Arian Foster. And that's not just because he was the most successful running back for the Houston Texans. That's also because Arian Foster was kind of a genius when it came to running in the zone blocking scheme. You have to make those cuts. You have to make those reads. You're reading the reads that the offensive linemen are doing in real time. And sometimes, when you have that kind of improvisation, some players, it isn't exactly their skill set, or it takes a little bit of a learning curve. And having to do that, I'm sure, in the NFL with the fastest players around is not exactly easy. So it was good to see Dameon Pierce have a great game. Dare Ngumbawale also was out there. He did pick up 8 yards. He had a couple of attempts. C.J. Stroud picked up 7. He had a couple attempts as well. And Cam Akers was in the game for 2 attempts. He didn't get too much in this game. He had negative rushing yards. We'll get back to Cam Akers in a little bit here, kind of going back to the main stats of the game and the trends here. The Texans here. The Texans had 4 penalties here. I was worried for a second. I was like, I did not think they had 9 penalties, but that is the Patriots. The Patriots had 9 penalties in this game. The Texans had 4. Obviously, any kind of penalties is not going to be good. You want 0 penalties, but with the way the game is played, it's a game played very quickly. It's a game full of violence that can be misconstrued, that can happens very quickly. Bang bang plays happen, and officials are out there trying to keep the game safe, trying to keep the game flowing. Sometimes penalties happen. So it's not like I'm going to sit here and say the Texans aren't going to be good until they have 0 penalties. I'm sure DeMeco Ryans is saying that, the head coach of the Texans, but that's not for me to say. We want them to have low penalties that don't affect the game as much as it can. You don't want the big penalties. You don't want the big chunks of yardage taken out of your momentum. You don't want the game's whistled dead and all the momentum to go out from there. So, I'll take 4 penalties and hope that we just keep to being under 4. Overall, the Texans did get an interception. They did give away. They also were able to take the ball away or were able to cause 2 fumbles. They also got 4 sacks in this game. Overall, a strong defensive effort, even though the Patriots were able to score 2 more touchdowns in the second half of the game off of the Houston Texans. At that point, the game was very far away, with the Texans scoring at least 2 scores in each quarter of the second half. One of the biggest things in this game was obviously individual play was huge. We talked about the running game. C.J. Stroud had a very chill game chill day at the office, going 20 for 31 with a 64.5%, 100 completion percentage, I should say. He had 192 yards with 3 touchdowns and 1 interception that he gave away off of a throw to Dalton Schultz that kind of bounced off of him, if I'm remembering that correctly. Definitely, if I got that wrong, write in, let me know how I got that one wrong. But I'm pretty sure that's what happened. There was a throw to Dalton Schultz that just kind of shoulda, coulda, woulda throw, but turned into an interception with just unlucky play and bad play there. Overall, when we're looking at the receiving core here, they did spread the ball around. Stephon Diggs, obviously being the wide receiver 1, with Nico Collins being out. He got 6 receptions for 77 yards and a touchdown. Tank Dell stepping up with Nico Collins being out as well. 7 receptions for 57 yards and a touchdown. And Joe Mixon getting in the mix with 2 receptions for 30 yards and a touchdown as well. Dalton Schultz, like I said, I was kind of mad at him for a bit, but he did get 4 receptions for 27 yards. It was good to see that. And individual on the defensive side, we had Will Anderson Jr. completely go off for 4 tackles for loss and 3 sacks on this game. He was incredible. He looked like on another world, and we'll definitely get to that in a bit too. Danielle Hunter got another sack for the team to get them all of those tackles for a loss. The defense was truly swarming. Eric Murray got an interception in the game. And Kalen Bullock got a big interception as well. So the defense not only playing great defense, but playing some very fierce swarm bully ball out there, taking the ball away, getting behind the line of scrimmage, getting tackles for losses, really having a great defensive effort out there. You love to see it. You'd love to see a lower score for sure, but when the score starts to get away, sometimes the intensity isn't quite as there as much. And I'm not saying that people played with less intensity at the end. I'm just saying it's a longer game. You feel like you kind of put the pressure on them. We would have liked a little more pressure for a little less scoring, but the defense played a very great game. I think it seems in the box score and in the final score and the stat sheet, it seems a little bit closer than it felt. It did feel like it was a much more dominant game than even the stats reflect, in my opinion. It was a great game, and you love to see the Patriots kind of take their licks there. They were dominant in the NFL for so long. Nobody remains at the top forever. That's just how it goes. They're finally figuring out what their identity is now as a team, and they have a new rookie quarterback starting for them. So it was just the Texans' time to shine. It was the Texans' time to go out there and put on a showcase. Offensively, they looked great. If they can just get healthy, if they can just get all of their players on the field at once, I can only imagine what an incredible football team this will be. But we will have to wait a little while longer for the Houston Texans to have their full squad healthy. I mean, it's a football team in the NFL in 2024. There's never going to be a day in which the whole squad is completely healthy, but we can dream for it and we can hope for it, and that's definitely what we do here at the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. I think without burying the lead any further, let's go ahead and talk about Will Anderson Jr. Will Anderson Jr. has been suspended for 4 games in a complete bummer and deflating move to all Houston Texans fans everywhere. After his incredible game against the New England Patriots, he essentially was tested immediately after, and he has been suspended for 4 games for violating the NFL's substance policy. And I'm looking here in my notes. I don't have the exact wording down. This is some fairly, at least for me, it's some new news, and I'm not finding the wording here in my notes. So I'm just trying to be like, I do not quote me on that. I believe it was for violating the league substance abuse policy. There could be different language there, because the way it looks like here, from the way what I'm reading from these articles that I've found, and this is a developing story, so just full disclosure, I always say that I am not a journalist. I'm reading things, and I'm trying my best to only report back with things of substance that I hear, and not just rumors. But this is something that is very much in the rumor circulation. So I'm saying that I'm saying this with a huge grain of salt. I'm trying to say this is not 100% vetted information. Doing these podcasts, it's nice to be able to talk about things, but you also don't want to contribute to misinformation. I don't want to come up here and be like, this is 100% truth and I know it and somebody told me. No, this is information that I'm still vetting. This is from sources that I haven't been able to completely vet with or corroborate with, what I'm trying to say is I haven't been able to verify this with a secondary source. That's what I'm trying to say. But it looks like this was not a performance-enhancing drug slap on the wrist. This is perhaps recreational. And if that's the case, if this is a non-performance-enhancing drug violation, it's so silly. It just makes me frustrated. Obviously, in this day and age, you don't want somebody to be taking substances that could potentially damage their health, that can have long-term damage to them. But also, this is a grown man. I'm not his dad. I'm not here to cast moral judgments on him, and I don't think you should be either. We live in this day and age where nobody wants, no, everybody's upset because they don't want the government to tell them what to do. Everybody wants freedom. And, so how is it that if, you don't want people in your life telling you what to do, giving you unnecessary regulations, but it's completely okay for a private entity to cast moral judgments on people and get completely into their lives and nose around in their personal business? To me, this is personal business that the league or I really have no business being involved in. And sure, maybe his team, maybe the league needs to learn about this thing if there is some kind of substance abuse issue or something. I'm not trying to say that there is. Maybe there is some situation in which it would be good for other people to know and be involved, but I don't think we should be penalizing the man for potentially going through some tough situation. It's really easy to sit back and judge somebody. That's what we always do. We sit back and judge instead of looking at the situation as a human and wondering with compassion and empathy if that person's okay. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm just hoping that Will Anderson Jr. is okay as a person. I'm hoping things are all right with him as a man. But I'm not here to judge him or give some moral condemnation from down on high and say he can't do his job or play football. That's just insane and ridiculous. I don't think in this day and age with it, we cannot ask for freedoms and then take them away for other people for entertainment. That's insane. So I'm hoping that we get more clarity to this story, and we know what's happening with Will Anderson Jr. Obviously, I don't think it's going to be fun to talk about, whether it's performance enhancing drugs or a substance abuse thing. But at the end of the day, it's tough for me because I really don't think it's my business. I don't think it's your business. I think if it is our business, we should be making it our business to help a person as opposed to judge a person and try to take away their livelihood. But that's just me. I think we should be living with empathy and compassion and not just letting politics tear us apart and hate each other. Why do we always want to hate each other? I don't get it. So for Will Anderson Jr., I really hope that he's doing okay. I hope we get some more information from this story so that we can talk about it a little more clearly. But at the end of the day, folks, try not to judge people. Try to stay out of people's business and just try to think about how you would want somebody that is in your family or you to be treated if you were in a sticky situation and everybody was just looking to capitalize off of that. So, we don't want to be living in that too long. We're going to go ahead and move on to a football move that Texans GM Nick Caserio has done today. This just dropped about 20 minutes ago, right before I was going to record the podcast. I had to hit pause there and try to verify some more information. Like I said, I'm not a journalist, so I do try to bring the most up-to-date information. I try to vet all of my sources. I do a lot of reading. I read so much, folks, and I try to watch all of the games and read all of the things and bring you all of the information that I can. But I try to vet my sources when I can here. So it looks like GM Nick Caserio has traded Cam Akers to I believe the Minnesota Vikings. I don't have that up in front of me. It's funny, I've been so worried about all the other things. Yeah, it's the Minnesota Vikings. I didn't actually write down who he was traded to, and it's looking like he's traded for a they're going to send him along with a conditional pick and get a conditional pick in return. From what I've seen, it looks like we're giving up a conditional 7th to receive a conditional 6th round pick. That may be incorrect. I might have flipped that there. I'm also not seeing a lot of verified sources on what exactly has been traded, as much as they've just announced there has been a trade. So this is big with Joe Mixon back, with Dameon Pierce having a really good game. I'm feeling that Nick Caserio head coach DeMeco Ryans, and the running back coaches are all saying, hey, Dameon Pierce has got it. He's figuring it out. I think he's good. We don't need the safety net of Cam Akers. Also, Dare Ngumbawale is looking great. Maybe Cam Akers has gone from second in the depth chart potentially at the beginning of the season to fourth behind Dameon Pierce and Ngumbawale now. So it looks like they no longer need Cam Akers' services. And I do think that this is probably the highest market value you'll get for Cam Akers right now at this point in the season. So they're going ahead and just signing off on this trade, getting some value back for Cam Akers when we can. And this is huge. This is huge for the Texans to be able to get anything from Cam Akers, because Cam Akers has found money. We weren't expecting Cam Akers to be part of this team, and he played well enough in the preseason and decent enough in the games that we were able to get a return of investment on Cam Akers. Little things like that are what builds a successful team that you're hoping will build a championship team. So a move like that very much gets me excited about the Houston Texans' future and the Houston Texans going forward. Speaking of going forward, let's go ahead and look ahead to Sunday's game. Your Houston Texans will be at Lambeau Field playing the Green Bay Packers. This is going to be a very fun and tough game, I believe. I haven't really done any preview for this game yet. I traditionally preview the games on Wednesday or Thursday, so look ahead in the next couple days when I do Paul's picks. We will preview this game a little bit more, but I will say this is going to be a much anticipated game. You have Jordan Love versus CJ Stroud. You have two teams that are looking to be on the rise in the NFL, and they're squaring off, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a marquee matchup for the NFL. The Green Bay Packers are 4-2. They have a home record of 2-1, and they're on a 2-game winning streak right now. So you're really thinking that they have some momentum right now in the season. The Texans are on a 3-game winning streak. Believe it or not, folks, we have gone streaking. Your 5-1 Texans are on a 3-game winning streak, and we're looking to go into Lambeau and continue that streak. And how we can do it, well, that's something you're going to have to wait for till next podcast, folks. So thank you for listening. That's going to go ahead and do it for this transmission, Space Cadets. Thanks so much for listening. Please like, rate, review, subscribe, share, bop it, kick it, skip it, all of those things. Smash all of those buttons for me wherever you are listening to this podcast on, whether it's Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube, any of those spots. Please hit those buttons for me. We are a small podcast, and those buttons do so much to support the podcast. Please reach out on social media at Space Cadet Sports on Instagram and Threads, or you could reach out to me directly at Paul Salazar Jr. on all social media platforms, and I'm active on all the cool ones. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think the keys to the game are for the Houston Texans going into Lambeau Field. Or you can call in and leave me a voicemail and maybe get on the pod if it isn't too hateful or laced with profanity. I definitely wouldn't mind running that. That's at speakpipe.com/Space Cadet Sports. Once again, leave a voicemail at speakpipe.com/Space Cadet Sports. And that's going to go ahead and do it. Thanks so much for listening, folks. Remember to be the best that you can be. Keep your head up, kid. And as always, vamos, Texans.